There's an endangered species, Delta smelt, and why is this has become such a controversy?
Sure. Once around the 1990s, a lot of concern was being expressed about environmental damage being done in the Delta, including several fish species that seemed to be in rapid decline. The salmon, Sacramento splittail, and the Delta smelt. By the early 21st century, it started to look like the Delta smelt was in a lot of trouble and in danger of going extinct. Now, there's a federal law called the Endangered Species Act. There's also a state Endangered Species Act, which is essentially the same thing at the state level. These require the government to do everything possible to stop that species from going extinct, use whatever powers it has to stop the species from going extinct. The question then became what exactly was causing the Delta smelt to go into decline, and that's where the controversies began.
And what are the thoughts on that?
Yeah, so a lot of work has been done by biologists, and it's still not exactly clear what was hurting the Delta smelt. In fact, chances are a number of things were affecting the Delta smelt. Part of it was probably the intrusion of salty water. I mean, the Delta opens up onto the ocean. If there's not enough fresh water, then salt water from the ocean comes in, and that's bad for the Delta smelt, which is a freshwater fish. There's a variety of predators on the Delta smelt. There could be some problems with Sacramento's municipal utility district putting its wastewater into the Delta, not too far from there. But the main blame has been put on the pumps for the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project. And it is true that the pumps operate at such a strong level that many Delta smelt are sucked into the pumps and therefore killed.
And does the Delta smelt exist now? Has it been observed? Does it?
This is a very good question, actually. Once a year, I think it's once a year, biologists do a smelt count. And the last couple of years, they have not been finding much at all. In fact, I think even one year they didn't find any smelt. So there's some concern that it may already be too late for the smelt. Now, these population counts are difficult to do and not very decisive, so there could still be smelt there. But if there is still a smelt population, it's probably very small, and in some people's minds, maybe it's too late to save it from extinction. We don't know.
And the idea is that the smelt is getting sucked in by the pumps, and the pumps are destroying the smelt. Is this why people don't like these pumps, or they don't want us to pump more water out of them?
Yeah, well, when the pumps were identified as a cause, indeed identified as the principal cause, many environmental interests certainly wanted to have the pumps completely shut down. But even also the sports fishing industry was supportive of shutting down the pumps because, the Delta smelt are eaten by other kinds of fish that a lot of people like to come fish and support the sports fishing industry. Now, what actually happened was that after a series of lawsuits, federal courts ordered a partial shutting down of the pumps. When the Delta smelt happened to be in that region of the Delta, by federal court order, the pumps were to be shut down so as not to suck in the fish. It's not a permanent shutdown, but it is a shutdown at a time when they really need to be going, the pumps.
And can you tell us the impact of these pumps not working? What's the impact of them?
This is a loss then of irrigation water to farmers in the San Joaquin Valley. Farmers who are used to getting their irrigation water off the Delta Mendota Canal. I mean, theoretically, it should have been a loss of water to the State Water Project as well, but since the State Water Project largely supports cities, the law of California says cities have a priority over agriculture. So in practice, the cutbacks hit agriculture pretty hard. So that's, in other words, it's frankly just less water for irrigation, and that has caused many farmers in parts of the San Joaquin Valley to fallow lands. So that's less agricultural production, and of course that has adverse ripple effects in farming economies here in the valley. Many of these smaller communities in the valley are largely composed of made up of farm workers. And when there are no crops to be harvested, there's no jobs for farm workers to have. And so they are unemployed. And in some of these small towns, especially during the serious drought years, remember 2014, 2015, but even still somewhat today, this would lead to unemployment levels well in excess of 50%. 50, not 15,
Wow.
50%.